The moment a person realizes that fighting negative thoughts only makes them stronger is the moment the real journey begins. For a long time, the mind believes it must wrestle darkness into submission, silence every uncomfortable voice, crush every disturbing image, and replace it with something bright and positive. This struggle feels noble at first, like a heroic battle for mental purity, but slowly it becomes exhausting. The more forcefully one tries to push a thought away, the more stubbornly it returns. Carl Jung observed this long before modern psychology popularized the idea. He saw that what we resist does not disappear. It goes underground, grows roots, and waits for the right moment to rise again. The mind is not a battlefield meant to be conquered. It is a living landscape. Jung believed that negative thoughts are not enemies invading from outside, but messengers arising from within. They belong to the psyche just as much as pleasant thoughts do. When someone says, "I must destroy my negative thoughts," Jung would say they are unknowingly declaring war on a part of their own soul. And no one wins a civil war inside themselves. A person may wake up one morning with a familiar heaviness in the chest. Thoughts appear without invitation. Doubts about worth, fears of failure, memories of past mistakes, imagined futures full of loss. The instinct is to argue with these thoughts, to shout internally, "This is wrong, stop thinking like this." But Jung noticed something subtle. The psyche does not respond well to authoritarian commands. The unconscious does not obey logic the way the conscious mind expects it to. When treated like an enemy, it becomes one. Jung introduced the idea of the shadow, the part of the psyche that contains everything we reject, deny, or refuse to accept about ourselves. Negative thoughts often emerge from this shadow. They are not random. They are expressions of neglected truth. The shadow is not evil, though it can feel frightening. It is simply unknown. When someone constantly tries to be strong, positive, confident, and morally pure, everything that contradicts this image gets pushed into the shadow. Weakness, fear, jealousy, anger, sadness, insecurity, all of it gets buried. But buried does not mean gone. Stopping the fight with negative thoughts begins with a radical shift. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this thought?" one asks, "Why does this thought exist?" This question alone changes the entire relationship with the mind. Jung believed that the psyche is always trying to balance itself. If the conscious mind becomes too one-sided, too optimistic, too controlled, too rigid, the unconscious compensates by producing opposite material. Negative thoughts are often compensations, not malfunctions. Imagine a person who prides themselves on being strong and independent, never needing help. Their negative thoughts might whisper, "You are alone, no one will support you. You will collapse one day." These thoughts feel cruel, but Jung would say they are trying to reveal a truth, the neglected human need for connection. Fighting these thoughts only deepens the imbalance. Listening to them, without obeying them blindly, restores wholeness. Jung emphasized that the goal of psychological growth is not happiness but individuation, the process of becoming a whole human being. Wholeness includes light and dark, strength and fragility, confidence and doubt. When someone tries to eliminate negative thoughts, they are unconsciously rejecting half of their humanity. The psyche reacts to this rejection by amplifying what is denied. That is why people who chase constant positivity often experience sudden breakdowns, anxiety attacks, or depressive episodes. Negative thoughts are not asking to be believed. They are asking to be acknowledged. There is a profound difference. A thought that says, "I am worthless," does not require agreement or argument. It requires curiosity. Jung would suggest observing it like a symbol in a dream. Where did it come from? What emotion carries it? What memory is attached to it? When did it first appear in life? Often, these thoughts are echoes from childhood, formed when the psyche was still fragile and dependent on external validation. A child who repeatedly felt unseen may grow into an adult haunted by thoughts of insignificance. Fighting these thoughts as an adult is like yelling at a wounded child inside. The child does not need discipline. The child needs understanding. Jung believed that healing occurs when consciousness turns toward the unconscious with respect rather than fear. One of Jung's most misunderstood ideas is that suffering has meaning. This does not mean suffering should be glorified or prolonged unnecessarily. It means that suffering is not pointless noise. Negative thoughts often carry symbolic meaning. They point toward unresolved conflicts, unlived potential, or ignored emotions. When someone stops fighting them and starts listening, the thoughts often soften on their own. There is a paradox here that Jung loved. Acceptance transforms what resistance cannot. When a person allows a negative thought to exist without judgment, something unexpected happens. The thought loses its urgency. It no longer needs to shout. The psyche feels heard. Much like a person who calms down once they are listened to, the unconscious relaxes when acknowledged. This does not mean indulging every dark fantasy or acting on destructive impulses. Jung was clear about this. Consciousness must hold the tension between opposites. One must neither suppress nor obey negative thoughts. One must relate to them. This relationship is what Jung called dialogue with the unconscious. Through reflection, journaling, active imagination, or quiet contemplation, the person allows the thought to speak, then responds with awareness. For example, a thought may say, "You will fail." Instead of fighting it, one might respond internally, "What are you afraid of?" The answer may reveal a deeper fear of humiliation or abandonment. That fear may trace back to a moment long forgotten. In this way, negative thoughts become guides rather than enemies. Jung also warned against identifying with thoughts. A thought is an event in the psyche, not the self. When someone says, "I am my thoughts," they become trapped. Jung encouraged observing thoughts as psychic phenomena, similar to weather passing through the sky. The sky does not become the storm, it contains it. When a person learns to say, "A thought is happening," instead of "This is who I am," space is created. This space is crucial. It allows consciousness to remain stable while the unconscious expresses itself. Fighting collapses this space. Acceptance expands it. Jung believed that psychological strength comes not from control, but from integration. Integration means allowing opposing forces to coexist without one destroying the other. Another reason people fight negative thoughts is fear. There is a deep fear that if one allows these thoughts, they will take over. Jung understood this fear, but saw it as misguided. He observed that what truly overwhelms people is not darkness but repression. A thought that is allowed to surface consciously is far less dangerous than one that operates unconsciously. Unconscious negative thoughts influence behavior silently. They shape relationships, choices, and reactions without permission. Conscious negative thoughts, on the other hand, can be examined, questioned, and transformed. By bringing them into awareness, their power diminishes. Jung famously said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Stopping the fight with negative thoughts is therefore not surrender, it is leadership. Consciousness takes responsibility for what arises within. Instead of acting like a tyrant, it becomes a mediator. This mediation is uncomfortable at first because it requires humility. One must admit that the psyche knows things the ego does not. Jung believed that many negative thoughts arise when a person is living inauthentically. The psyche reacts when one's outer life does not match inner truth. A person may appear successful but feel empty. Negative thoughts then act as signals, pointing toward neglected values or suppressed desires. Fighting these thoughts keeps a person trapped in a life that does not belong to them. There is also a collective dimension. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, where archetypal fears and patterns reside. Not all negative thoughts are personal. Some reflect universal human anxieties, fear of death, meaninglessness, isolation. When someone experiences such thoughts, they are not broken, they are human. Recognizing this reduces shame, which is one of the fuels of inner conflict. Shame tells a person, "You should not think this way." Jung saw shame as a major obstacle to integration. Shame pushes thoughts back into the shadow, where they grow distorted. Compassion, on the other hand, brings them into the light where they can be understood. Compassion toward oneself is not weakness, it is psychological maturity. As a person practices this new relationship with their mind, something shifts. Negative thoughts may still appear, but they no longer provoke panic. They are met with a quiet acknowledgement. Over time, their content changes. Instead of attacking, they inform. Instead of repeating, they evolve. The psyche, feeling respected, cooperates. Jung believed that inner peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to hold conflict without fragmentation. The mind becomes spacious enough to contain contradictions. One can feel fear and courage, sadness and gratitude, doubt and faith simultaneously. This complexity is not a flaw. It is the signature of a fully developed psyche. The final realization is subtle yet profound. Negative thoughts are not obstacles on the path. They are part of the path. They carve depth into the personality. Without them, growth remains superficial. Jung often compared psychological development to alchemy, where base material is transformed into gold. The dark, heavy material is not discarded. It is essential to the process. When someone stops fighting their negative thoughts, they stop fighting themselves. Energy previously wasted on resistance becomes available for creativity, insight, and genuine strength. The mind becomes less rigid, more alive. And in this state, something unexpected emerges, not forced positivity, but quiet confidence. Not the absence of darkness, but the presence of understanding. In Jung's view, healing does not mean becoming someone else. It means becoming who you already are, including the parts you once feared. And when those parts are welcomed into consciousness, they no longer need to scream. They speak softly, wisely, and eventually, they rest. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video.